Moral placeholder theory. You believe murder is wrong, theft is wrong, cruelty is wrong. But what if those beliefs aren't truth? What if they're just training wheels? What if morality has no basis in reality, just a temporary evolutionary tool we developed to survive the Stone Age? And now that we're approaching godlike power through technology, what if we're about to discover that morality was never meant to handle what comes next? This is Uncomfortable Theories. I'm your host, Janet Robinson. Act 1. The Evolutionary Origin. Let me tell you what science has discovered about where your sense of right and wrong actually comes from. Around 2 million years ago, early humans faced a problem. We were relatively weak, slow, and had no natural weapons. But we had one advantage. We could cooperate in large groups. Cooperation requires trust. Trust requires rules. And rules require punishment for those who break them. According to evolutionary biologists like Krebs and Frans Waal, human morality evolved as a set of social instincts, decision-making strategies that helped our ancestors maximize the benefits of group living while minimizing conflicts of interest. We developed emotions like empathy, guilt, shame, and moral outrage not because these things reflect some universal truth, but because groups with these emotions outcompeted groups without them. Think about it. A tribe where members felt guilty about stealing from each other stayed cohesive. A tribe where members felt empathy for injured companions took better care of their wounded. A tribe that felt moral outrage toward cheaters maintained cooperation. These weren't conscious choices. Natural selection simply favored the groups whose members' brains produced chemicals that made cooperation feel good and betrayal feel bad. Your sense of morality, that deep feeling that certain things are just wrong, is no different than your sex drive or your appetite for sugar. It's an evolved response that helped your ancestors survive. But here's the uncomfortable question. If morality evolved to solve specific problems in the Stone Age, what happens when those problems no longer exist? Act 2. The Placeholder Hypothesis. Here's the theory. Morality was never meant to be permanent. It's a placeholder, a temporary fix to help a barely intelligent species coordinate in groups of 50 to 150 individuals while living in resource-scarce environments. The moral rules we developed were perfectly calibrated for that world. Don't kill members of your tribe. Share food, punish cheaters, protect children, cooperate on hunts. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in cities of millions. We have nuclear weapons. We're developing artificial intelligence that could surpass human capability. We're editing genes. We're extending lifespans. We're on the verge of becoming a spacefaring species. And our Stone Age morality is still trying to run the show. Think about how moral philosophy struggles with modern problems. Is it wrong to edit human embryos to prevent genetic diseases? Our evolved morality has no answer. Evolution never encountered that scenario. Is it wrong to create conscious AI and then delete it? Our moral intuitions were calibrated for fellow humans, not digital minds. What about terraforming Mars by wiping out potential microbial life? Should we sacrifice human expansion for microorganisms? Our moral systems start breaking down because they were never designed to handle godlike capabilities. Maybe that's not a bug. Maybe that's a feature. Maybe morality was always supposed to be outgrown. Act 3. Morality's expiration date. Let's look at what happens when technology advances faster than moral frameworks can adapt. In 1945, we developed nuclear weapons. For the first time in history, humans possessed the power to annihilate our entire species in hours. Our Stone Age morality said, don't kill. But suddenly we had weapons that could kill millions instantly. How do you apply thou shalt not kill to mutually assured destruction? We invented new frameworks: deterrence theory, proportional response, acceptable civilian casualties. We created entirely new moral categories that would have been incomprehensible to our ancestors. We didn't abandon morality, but we stretched it until it barely resembled its original form. Now we're facing AI that could exceed human intelligence. According to researchers at Rand and SIPRI, we're approaching capabilities where machines might need to make life and death decisions faster than humans can process information. Do we program them with human morality? Which human morality? Western ethics? Confucian principles? Utilitarian calculus? And what happens when the AI points out that human moral systems are inconsistent, contradictory, and optimized for conditions that no longer exist? According to philosopher Nick Bostrom, we're facing what he calls existential risk, scenarios where our technological capability vastly exceeds our wisdom to wield it. But maybe the problem isn't that we lack wisdom. Maybe the problem is that we're still clinging to a moral framework that was never designed for this level of power. Act 4. The uncomfortable implications. So, what happens if we're right? If morality really is just a temporary evolutionary adaptation that we're outgrowing? First, we'd have to admit that there's no objective basis for right and wrong. Murder isn't really wrong, it just feels wrong because our ancestors who felt that way survived better than those who didn't. Second, as our power increases, we'll face more and more scenarios where Stone Age moral intuitions actively impede progress. Should we create conscious AI? Traditional morality says we shouldn't risk creating beings that might suffer, but that might mean we never develop superintelligence that could solve every human problem: disease, aging, scarcity. Should we genetically engineer humans? Our moral intuitions scream no, but only because our ancestors never faced this choice. If we can eliminate genetic diseases, extend healthy lifespan to 200 years, enhance intelligence and empathy, why wouldn't we? Should we expand into space even if it means consuming resources that could theoretically support other life? Our evolved morality prioritizes human survival above all else. But is that right, or just hardwired selfishness? The placeholder theory suggests that as we gain more power, we'll be forced to abandon moral frameworks entirely and replace them with something else. Maybe pure rational calculation. Maybe optimization algorithms that maximize well-being without reference to moral rules. Maybe something we can't even conceive of yet. But whatever replaces morality won't be morality as we understand it. Act 5. The Counterargument. Now, there's a strong counterargument to all of this. Some philosophers argue that even if morality evolved, that doesn't mean it's not real or valuable. The fact that our capacity for mathematics evolved doesn't make mathematics arbitrary. Maybe moral truths exist independently of evolution, and evolution just gave us the capacity to perceive them. Like eyes evolved to perceive light that existed long before eyes did. And maybe the solution isn't to abandon morality, but to expand it. Philosopher Peter Singer argues that moral progress happens when we extend our circle of concern beyond our immediate tribe, first to our nation, then our species, eventually to all sentient beings. From this view, morality isn't a placeholder we outgrow, but a capacity we refine as we become more capable. But here's what makes the placeholder theory uncomfortable. We can't know which interpretation is correct until we face the critical test. And by the time we know, it might be too late to go back. Conclusion. So where does this leave us? We're a species with Stone Age brains, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. Our moral frameworks were calibrated for small tribes competing for scarce resources. Now we're building artificial superintelligence, editing the genetic code of life itself, and contemplating expansion beyond our home planet. Either our morality will scale to handle these new challenges, proving it reflects something deeper than evolutionary accident, or it won't. And we'll be forced to either constrain our power to fit our morality or abandon our morality to match our power. The placeholder theory suggests we're rapidly approaching the expiration date on the moral operating system that got us this far. What comes next won't be an upgrade. It'll be something fundamentally different. And whether that's humanity's next great leap forward or the moment we lose what makes us human, that's the question we're about to answer. This has been Uncomfortable Theories. I've been your host, Janet Robinson. Question everything. Trust nothing. And remember, the morality you're sure is eternal might just be scaffolding we're about to kick away.